this is crazy. It's supposed to be healthcare.
And it was just mind-boggling.
There's such a great opportunity to lead in this space.
Find a partner that meets your needs.
Put yourself in the patient's shoes.
And when patients understand, patients are happy.
Organizations that succeed in this are going to be the ones that bring in RCM.
We're always looking for chances to do better.
The problem in our industry is
all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Vendor Voices episode. We're joined today by Bret and John of Revigate. How you guys doing?
Doing great, Ryan. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to have you. Everyone knows how we start off these videos. We dive right into our Snapshot challenge. Are you guys ready?
Ready.
Let's do it.
Fantastic. All right. Question number one. Who is Revigate?
Revigate is a revenue cycle consulting firm that I founded in 2019 after spending 60 years in hospital and healthcare operations. I started as a patient account rep and finished as a vice president of revenue cycle. During that time, I had lots of experiences with traditional consultants and really set out to do something different, which was apply consulting through the lens of an operator.
Yeah, and really we're here to end unnecessary revenue loss and inefficiency within the revenue cycle. That's what we want to do for providers.
All right. You mentioned providers. So that leads us to question two. Who does Revigate serve?
So we serve hospitals, health systems, large physician groups. We have some real focus on Epic because we have a lot of experience there and a lot of passion there about Epic. And at the end of the day, we're there to serve the bottom line that we're trying to get results, real measurable results for them. We work collaboratively across the organization and use a lot of soft skills to make things work right.
Additionally, we found that there's a lot of interest in our approach because we are former operators and subject matter experts, particularly from those that have used consultants previously from some of the larger firms in the industry. Most of our folks have spent a lot of time in their careers working with various types of organizations. We have a lot of experience with children's hospitals and academic medical centers as an example.
All right. Wonderful. Question number three. What problem is Revigate solving?
You know, at its highest level, really, we're here to maximize net revenue and minimize cost while instilling collaboration across our client projects. We really focus on executing projects that are measurable and bring a meaningful difference to our clients.
Yeah, we find that, you may have all the best intentions. You may have gone through a lot of training. You may have had an awesome vendor such as Epic that has helped you through different things, but there's still lots of gaps to be filled, lots of things that need to adhere to the processes and workflow that works best for you and your revenue cycle team. So we come in and try to help you fill those gaps.
All right. And question number four, how is Revigate solving that problem?
I think we solve it differently because we are leveraging people with significant subject matter expertise who have sat in the seats that our clients are sitting in. And it is because of that extensive experience that our folks have that allow us to be more effective in delivering long-term sustainable solutions for our clients.
Yeah, these are people with, that revenue cycle operator experience, plus the Epic IT experience, plus the ability to work with clinical and every other department you may have effectively. A lot of times we know that it's not always really a technical solution. We have that technical knowledge, but it's also a way of collaborating and getting people on the same boat, moving the same direction.
All right. Final question. How is Revigate solving that problem differently?
I think it's a real differentiator for us is the fact that we're leveraging operators at heart. We had to learn how to be consultants, and we do that additionally with the soft skills that Bret mentioned. You could be the smartest subject matter expert in the world if you don't have the ability to work with others and solve these complex cross-functional problems. It takes a special type of soft skill and personality to be able to deliver those kinds of results. And that's really what we're laser focused on at Revigate.
Yeah, I guess, different from many big name consulting companies that do a great job at selling, they don't often deliver like the real results. They're not maybe always in the position or don't have the attitude of rolling up their sleeves and really getting down to the work that matters. Um, you know, we focus more on action. It's not about 6-month assessments that go nowhere. It's about measurable bottom line results. Everything we do, we are measuring to make sure that we're delivering every step of the way.
All right, guys. That's the Snapshot Challenge. Thanks for taking it. I think we heard a lot of things, a lot of themes, certainly through those questions in terms of being operators, which begs the question, let's learn more about your operating history. John, I'll start with you. John Freeman, President and CEO of Revigate. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about you?
Yes, I'm a degreed accountant. For my formal educational training, I never worked in public accounting, though. Initially, I had aspirations of becoming a CFO or working in public accounting, but I went straight into an internship in revenue cycle. And a long story short, I never left. And I was very fortunate to work for large, complex organizations that were navigating a lot of change in my operational career. That is really what afforded me the opportunity to really learn and know what I wanted to do. We leveraged consulting resources on our journeys when I was in revenue cycle operations. And, truthfully, we had some good partners at times, but the majority of times we had folks that really didn't understand us. They weren't like us and they had trouble helping us. And that is what led me to form Revigate, really that passion to deliver real help to healthcare providers. And we are able to deliver that because, again, we've sat in that same seat and know those struggles firsthand.
Well, John, we have something in common. My background's in accounting as well. I don't know if we ever talked about that, but I immediately went into revenue cycle, but I took the traditional consulting path instead of the operator path, and I have the utmost respect for the operators out there. That's for sure. Bret O'Connor, Chief Strategy Officer. How about you? Tell the audience about Bret.
I have a background that really didn't make any sense for revenue cycle. I never thought I'd be in healthcare. I was much more entrepreneurial. I did have a stint in some management consulting for some time. Even worked in toys at Mattel. But I ended up in RevCycle as a partner of an AR firm growing the operations about a dozen years ago. It really just it got to me. It got to me how flawed our system is as far as providers being in this position. It's hard to even imagine sometimes the amount of money that is lost, the inefficiency, et cetera, through they want to be the best they can be, and everything seems to be working against them. So that really developed a passion in me to help providers be as efficient and as great as they can be, especially getting the money that they deserve. So I also co-founded a company that was focused on credit balances, which is, by the way, the sexiest part of the revenue cycle. Everybody knows that.
No doubt.
After some more time doing independent consulting, joined Revigate, where, I just love being able to bring to bear people who know what they're doing, are super passionate about what they're doing, and who really make a meaningful difference. And as I said, we're measuring it all the time. We want to have an impact that is lasting for each of our clients. And so I'm thrilled to be able to do something like that.
Awesome. Thank you both for introducing yourselves and for being here. I don't know, you joked that you didn't have a background for revenue cycle. I don't know that there is one. I think everybody kind of just falls into it, right? I think that's the most common. How did you get here? Is I knew somebody, or I just fell into it. I'd also say that cash posting might be even sexier than credits, and I've worked deeply in both. So trust me, I know how exciting they are.
You may have gotten me there. Okay.
The unsung heroes.
My internship started. I was an intern in the payment posting department as a patient account rep. So I hear you.
Yeah.
I was an interim leader over both of those teams in the past, and I know a thing or two. I think there's already clear themes developing here, which is awesome. I think it makes for some pretty obvious but exciting questions. So maybe, John, I'll lead to you on this one. Long career in revenue cycle operations. You talked a bit how that was kind of the origin story, if you will, of Revigate. And I've heard you guys say, being operators and doing the work, and I see it on your website. tell us a little bit more, about the importance of your firm doing the work rather than just advising, and how that's been kind of a core aspect of Revigate.
Yeah, and I think it starts with, revenue cycle leaders are sharp, right? And many of them know where their problems are. They might not know every little problem in every little nook and every little crevice, but many of them know where their problems and challenges reside. And sometimes they need help to see the things that they don't see. But more than that, I find they are really smart and they know these things. What do they need more often is just an extra set of hands to help them execute and solve these problems and challenges. They're always asked to do more with less. Resources continue to be an issue when you look at what the labor market looks like across the industry. And so at the end of the day, we get told all the time, hey, look, guys, your sales pitch sounds great, but I don't need another person coming here just telling me what my problems are or telling me what I should be doing. I need some help. And that's where we really shine, is really being that extra set of hands, augmenting the client staffing model. Let's align on the things that need to be done. But let's quickly get past that, because our favorite part is actually going and doing those things that are going to make the real difference.
And that's why we like to call ourselves often optimizers rather than consultants, because the optimizing is consultants. Sometimes people think of they're just talking and putting together pretty reports and those sorts of things that you might end up putting on a shelf. But we like getting our hands dirty. That's exciting. Let's get down to it. Let's make it actually happen for real.
Yeah, I like it. As a kind of a lifelong consultant, can relate to a lot of this stuff. And I want to believe that I was always a doer. And whenever I talk to a younger consultant, I give the advice that if you think you'll ever know as much as your client about their system, you've already lost. Like, the first thing you need to do is just go in and listen. And John, I see the same stuff that you mentioned very often. Like, I don't want somebody to reiterate to me what I already know. I think that's true now more than ever with, maybe they're not always being leveraged the best, but reporting the expectation to do root cause analysis maybe wasn't there 20 years ago. Maybe that information wasn't as readily available. Maybe assessments in that level of depth made even more sense back then. But yeah, I still think they're important, but I think they could probably be expedited sometimes. And at the very least, there's become an expectation I've seen where start to do some of the implementation, start to make some change as you're doing the assessment in the areas where we already know and both agree are there and are obvious and are prevalent. So I I definitely see what you're seeing, and I see the need for it.
I think those are great points, and you could do a great job about pointing out where real problems are and where real root cause resides. But at the end of the day, healthcare revenue cycle teams have very little bandwidth, and many of them are staffed to the point where they can barely keep the lights on. They can't really execute on these strategic initiatives, even though they have an attractive return on investment. So, we find that to be our real sweet spot, is helping in the implementation of said opportunities.
When your boat's sinking at times, for some of these folks, you don't need somebody come in and point out your boat's sinking, or here's a new paint color you should put on the outside of it. You need somebody to really just start plugging the holes right now.
Well said. Like that analogy. I think, Brett, you started talking about this before. I want to expand on it. So, after you're getting your hands dirty, doing the work, how do you measure that success with your clients?
Yeah, I would say first off, the true measure of our success is our clients' happiness at the end of the day. I mean, that comes through a lot of things, but if they're happy that we have got them where they need to be within a reasonable time frame, and they're telling their friends, etc., we know that we've done a good job there. A lot of that boils down to things like ROI. John spends a lot of time thinking about return on investment. John?
Absolutely. And I think it starts with really having confidence in the resources and our team members, knowing that they have this deep rooted subject matter expertise, knowing that we're not just going to take a superficial, on the surface approach to solving a problem. We will dive deep and get down to the true root cause. And the solutions that we're providing are real and sustainable, and we're confident that they address the true root cause. So that affords us the opportunity to leave a project knowing exactly what we did, that it can be measured, and that it's real.
Love it. I'm thinking back to the Snapshot challenge here. I think I heard a couple of comments about some of the larger consulting groups out there. Um, I'm sure we're all familiar with many. So as we know, there's lots of options out there when it comes to revenue cycle consulting. I know, Brett, we don't love the consulting word, but bear with me. Uh,
Not our favorite, but
so I get it. I get it. It can come with a not the best connotation all the time. So why should revenue cycle leaders consider a much smaller consulting firm like Revigate?
yeah, well, being smaller, we like to say we have no B team. Like you're getting the A team every single time. We have to blow out expectations every single time. We can't afford failure. We're not just focused on what any resource we could throw at something for billable hours to get the bill that we're looking for at the end of the month. We have to be focused, laser focused on you getting the measurable results you're looking for. Higher net revenue, lower costs, more efficient workflow, happier and more collaborative people working across all the departments. If that isn't happening, then it's not a success. It's just not.
And to build upon that, I would say, we don't approach any engagement with a cookie cutter solution. We don't have these built out playbooks where we're handing to somebody and say, here, read this, and then go try to effectively implement this solution. We really take the time to listen and understand and leverage our significant subject matter expertise and bring that lens to the table, but try to listen more than we're talking at the beginning and really understand the organization that we're working with. And I think another advantage of it is I'm personally involved in every single project that we take on as the CEO and founder of this company. I'm going to join executive touch bases. I'm very engaged and plugged in. And I think that gives clients and prospective clients a great degree of security, that knowing that, hey, the guy at the top is here and listening and paying attention.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I am of the full belief, always have been. And even when I founded my company and originally as a revenue cycle consulting firm, we've changed now, but I was always of the mindset of revenue cycle is too complex and everyone's needs are too unique to do anything but custom solutions is really the way that I would think about it. So, line with you guys, I think that's how pretty much all engagements, no matter who's doing it, should be approached. Easier said than done, of course.
This show was brought to you by Real Partners Consulting, a free-to-provider vendor selection support company. We help healthcare providers find the right revenue cycle partners across technology, consulting, and managed services at no cost to you. If you like what you heard from today's guest, or if you're looking for any other partner in the revenue cycle space, let us do the heavy lifting for you. Reach out to me, your host, Ryan Downs, on LinkedIn or at rdowns@realpartnersconsulting.com, and I will personally help you find the right fit. Now let's get back to the episode.
It looks like Revigate's spending a bit more time specifically in Epic implementation and optimization. I'm curious what led you to that decision, if I interpreted it correctly, and then maybe some of the things you're seeing in that space, maybe some design decisions you're seeing that are sending providers off course, that maybe we can save them some trouble by getting ahead of that today.
I mean, we love Epic. First off, we think it's the best EMR out there. It's like if you're a health system that can afford to make that kind of investment, you're getting a Ferrari. And I think we step into, because we have so many folks who are passionate about Epic too, and have all that experience as well as the revenue cycle operations experience, we're able to step in and help you drive that Ferrari a lot more successfully. Some folks don't know how to get it out of second gear or third gear. And so we can help do that.
And for the second part of that question, Ryan, just a couple of areas where we see some common challenges or areas that could have maybe benefited from a little bit more emphasis. I mean, let's face it, when you choose to go down a path of an EMR implementation, it's a big deal. It's probably one of the biggest things that an organization can do in its entire history. whether you're talking about Epic or another EMR. But specific to Epic, I find that when you compare Epic to the legacy system that a health system was on, one of the biggest areas that requires change management is around charge capture and revenue accountability. In the Epic world, a lot of responsibility, attention, focus shifts to the upfront clinical provider. And that wasn't always the case in legacy systems. So introducing that concept of revenue accountability, having it championed by a C-suite executive goes a long way to, I think, helping. The change management around that really requires a real heavy emphasis. It's a lot bigger than just saying that we educated these folks on how their charges are triggered. We held a session and we're done, right? It takes a lot more stickiness than that for that to really be effective at go live and folks really understand not only where their charges come from, but how do I track and reconcile them, and how do I measure effectively to ensure that I'm not missing anything. So I would say first and foremost, that is a big area that should require some extra emphasis and planning in any organization. And secondly, I would say, Epic is fantastic. Like Brett called it the Ferrari. It can do so many different things, especially when you combine what Epic can do in conjunction with any of your third-party supplemental pieces of technology or software, like a clearinghouse, as an example. But what so often happens for a variety of reasons is that these solutions don't fully get implemented in terms of what the maximum functionality is. And so timelines get truncated and functionality gets cut, and it becomes, oh, we'll address that in optimization. And unfortunately, that happens way down the road, if at all. So I think, having that understanding of, for me to get the most out of Epic, I purchased all this other stuff that can work very well with Epic, but taking the time to ensure that that's built out to its maximum capability before you go live would do you a ton of justice instead of punting that down the road for optimization.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a building off the Ferrari analogy. Maybe it's like you're buying the Ferrari only to pop it in neutral and push it from behind.
Right.
Let's get it firing on all cylinders, right? I don't know if that one lands. So hopefully somebody else chuckles on that. But yeah, the preparation for something when you're spending that much money. I agree. I mean, you can't. I would rather you take the extra. Easy for me to say. I would rather you take the extra time to get everything out of it that you can, rather than kick it down the road. Because I think you're so right, John. That list of priorities just grows and grows and grows, and anything labeled optimization doesn't happen. To get to that point, to your earlier points, who has capacity to optimize when we're just, to Brad's point, trying to plug the holes in the boat? So now we got boats, we got Ferraris. I don't know what's next. I imagine too, on the Epic side, and then Brett, sorry, I feel like I've been cutting you off. I'll ask one more thing. I imagine, does your group have a good amount of Epic certified folks then?
We do, yes. We use a good, healthy combination of Epic certified folks that traditionally come from more of the IT background in partnership with our operational SMEs. And some of our operational SMEs have Epic certifications as well. But I really do believe that to get the best possible result in a situation, it takes someone who has that IT background and that IT lens looking at a problem in partnership with the person who has the revenue cycle operational SME background, because they both have different experiences, backgrounds, perceptions. But when you approach problem solving from that two-pronged approach, that's where you're going to get the best possible end result and configuration.
Yeah. I asked mostly just thinking, I know one of the things that there's some disgruntled consultants out there about Epic. They can't get certified because you have to be, hosted, I guess, by a provider organization. And given the way that you've grown your team through operators, figured you might have been able to pick up some certifications along the way. Brett, I feel like I cut you off. Did you want to add something?
Well, I was just going to say that, unfortunately, a lot of providers seem to believe that they can handle it on their own going through Epic, and they have maybe they have a decent project management team or a resource or two that they feel confident can help them. Maybe they even have one of those big name consultants we mentioned before. And the gaps as they go through this implementation later down the road, they find that sometimes some things become apparent, that these are clear gaps that we haven't been able to get to. Somebody wasn't willing to roll up their sleeves or didn't have the particular knowledge in going through an Epic implementation before. And then more often than not, they show up later after the go live, and they start seeing all these problems going, what the heck happened? Like, we just paid a lot of money for the best system out there, and somehow our revenue cycle is not behaving the way we thought it should. That's where hopefully they end up realizing that there's some additional help they need, somebody like ourselves, let's say, to help fill in those gaps. Because when you go through a typical implementation with Epic, it's more of an IT approach, and they don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of your rev cycle. They're not necessarily there to figure out all of the ins and outs of your rev cycle and figure out all the collaboration that's needed between, all the different teams to make your revenue cycle sing the way you want it to. So unfortunately, we talk to these folks sometimes much later in the process, which costs them a lot of money, not from us, but has cost them a lot of money and lost revenue and things like that.
Yeah. Don't go at it alone. If you're listening and you're about to go live with Epic or any other EMR, don't go at it alone. Epic would
Right.
tell you firsthand, they are developers, right? That's their whole thing. And that's part of what's gotten them to where they are today. You need more than just developers to do this successfully. I
Yeah.
urge everyone, try not to do this alone. It is a full-time job to prepare for an EMR transition. You already have a
Mhm.
full-time job to run your revenue
Right.
cycle. And I'm not the one coming in to do it, so I'm not selling myself. Maybe it's Revigate, maybe it's one of the many others. Just don't go at it
Right.
alone.
Agreed.
I'm with you on that. So we talked about Epic a bit. The other thing I've seen Revigate start to move more into, it seems, is the revenue integrity space. So is that true? Are you spending more time in revenue integrity? If so, I know you mentioned charge capture before specific to Epic. What's leading you into that rev integrity space?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start off by saying I was very fortunate to work for a boss when I was in operations where she said, John, this health system, we need a comprehensive revenue integrity program. And I would like for you to spearhead the creation of that. And it kind of scratched my head. And I looked at her and was like, I can't even spell revenue integrity. Like, I'm a business office guy. But the funniest part about it was, I did a lot of research. She was a particular revenue integrity SME, so she already knew a lot about it. So I would pick her brain. I did my own research. I talked to consultants. We had consultants helping us. But at the end of the day, I grew to love revenue integrity because it is such an integral part of the organization that I truly did not understand. And I think when you say a term like revenue integrity, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But what we set out to do was create a comprehensive revenue integrity program. There are the traditional things like, okay, you have to have a charge master and you have to have somebody who maintains it. And then obviously there are edits that need to be worked by people with the right skill set to be able to work revenue integrity and coding related edits. But this was bigger than that. It was about, because that kind of stuff is what I like to call the reactive stuff of revenue integrity. There are a lot of proactive components as well, like building a relationship between revenue cycle and clinical operations, proactively auditing and looking for areas of either charge capture opportunity or potential compliance risk. And so there are studies that have been done out in the industry that show if you invest in and implement a comprehensive revenue integrity program for your organization, it could yield up to 2% of net revenue for your organization. And that can be really significant when you start talking about, some of these larger hospitals and more mature health systems. And so I guess that's a little bit of background, but to more directly answer your question, knowing that charge capture and revenue generation is a complex component of Epic. And why is it complex? It's complex because, a provider's first job is to take care of a patient. And I would imagine that they would tell you that. I've had many tell me that, throughout my career. And so it's challenging because Epic is great. It's highly customizable. You can configure it in a lot of different ways, sometimes to your detriment, right? So there is an industry standard and a sort of best practice for every clinical area in terms of how you configure Epic. So that's kind of step one. And then also ensuring that those frontline providers know and understand their unique configuration and how charges are generated. That is a crucial component to really combating revenue leakage and really being able to timely and accurately identify revenue. And so we spend a lot of time in that place because it's a multi-pronged issue. It requires clinical operations, finance, compliance, legal, revenue cycle, coding, billing compliance, all these various things. And it's been our experience that that's where the biggest problems reside. In those areas that are multifaceted, they tend to get lost in an organization where you have, oh, my job's to take care of patients. My job in IT is just to answer tickets and work on break fix. My job in revenue cycle is to, collect money. And this kind of lives in that sort of little bit of gray area where everybody has a little bit of stake and a little bit of hand in it. That that's been an area of interest across our clients and prospects. And so we have an extensive amount of former revenue integrity operators and leaders that we deploy to help solve those types of multifaceted challenges.
Yeah,
I
that
love
makes
finding
sense.
more
I
net
think,
revenue.
yeah, I think there's some, I agree with everything you said. I think there's hidden revenue in that area sometimes too.
Yeah.
To your point of like, it's my job to collect on it. Well, if the charge wasn't entered, there's nothing to collect on. And so it's hard to measure, I think, sometimes the opportunity in that space. I'm not as well versed in it as you, but I do see it as a growing area of opportunity. Brett, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, we love finding net revenue. As far as measuring that opportunity, we've worked hand in hand with finance departments to come up with calculations to estimate the impact, daily, monthly, quarterly, annually, of the effects there of really getting in there and optimizing the charge master or finding other missed revenues. Yeah, we love doing that.
I'll add one last thing because I feel like I talked a lot because I do really feel passionate about that part of the revenue cycle, but it is so rewarding, Ryan, when you can go to an organization and you brought back 20 or 30 million dollars back to their bottom line through this kind of work here. Those are real results, real numbers, and we're bringing that straight back to the bottom line, which allows them to better take care and serve the patient populations of their communities.
All right. Got one more question for you guys. This is a kind of a fun one, a fortune teller one. Let's look into our crystal ball. We're recording this in January, on January 12th. Probably won't post it till maybe March or so. So who knows what will be going on in the crazy world of revenue cycle by then, but we're going to try and guess. So what do you two anticipate will be the core revenue cycle challenges this year, 2026? And what advice would you give to providers to kind of get ahead of those challenges?
I'd say the theme remains pretty consistent. It's going to be do more with less, as it has been for years now, trying to find the right kind of talent. If you're looking for local talent that's going to come into an office, that's different from remote talent, trying to keep them incentivized to do the best work, trying to keep educating them. I think at the end of the day, it does lead to, and this, it's a little self-serving to say this for Revigate, but it leads to finding good partnerships. I mean, people that you can lean on that are bringing solid experience and will give you great advice. And also those who will, you know, get in and get their hands dirty and do the work that needs to be done.
Yeah, I think those are all excellent points. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be more of the same struggles and challenges that they have been having, which is under increased margin pressure. How do we continue to do more with less? And so to do that and to do it well, you have to be protective of your net revenue and look for opportunities to grow net revenue. And you have to look for opportunities to automate, right? That's the way that you'll be able to get your expenses under control, fully take advantage of the technologies and their capabilities that you purchased. That is the way that you are going to continue to drive automation. Also, I mean, you can't look anywhere in today's day and age without hearing the words AI, you know? And what is that? What does it mean? You see companies popping up all over the place. I know, Ryan, we see you out at some of the HFMA events, and go walk the floor there, and there's new AI company Rogue. You know what I'm saying? And for a VP of revenue cycle or a chief revenue officer or any revenue cycle leader, how do you know what's real and who's a pretender? And just being able to navigate that, navigate the terminology, the functionality, all those types of things, I think are going to continue to be a challenge for revenue cycle leaders.
We almost made it through 45 minutes without saying AI. We're so close, John. I think I don't think we got to minute 6 in any of the other episodes I shot so far. But yeah, it's here. It's prevalent, and there are use cases, and I agree. You got to be taking advantage of them. I'll take my shameless plug. If you need help navigating that, that's what we do now. Call me. That's why we have vendor voices, so that we can have some of those AI groups come on and tell the world about what they're doing. Well, I think that's great. We'll see what 2026 has in store. We're going to close it up here as we do the same way with every episode. I want to give you both the opportunity to our listeners with a parting gift here, your advice, your information, whatever it is you want to share. Who wants to go first?
I can go if you want to. Boy, we live in crazy times in our country, and I think it's important in our own little world of healthcare rev cycle that we remember to be good to each other, remember to listen, that we remember that, it's relationships in our lives, whether it's work, personal, etc. It's relationships that make things either feel good at the end of the day or bad at the end of the day. And so, I know we like to take a lot of time to make sure we're being considerate in what we do, that we're being thoughtful, that we're being polite, that we're trying to get the best out of other people and make them shine. And so I would just say, I hope in 2026, more of us could do that and look to help others.
Appreciate that, Brett. Can't argue that. Be kind. All right, John, what you got for us?
I think that's great. And I'm going to build off of that a little bit, because I think that's what's going to help you really be the most effective revenue cycle leader that you can in your organization. And not only kind of within your own team, right? When people feel good and they feel recognized, they feel appreciated, they feel cared for, you will get a better ultimate output. But so much of the challenge, and I think back to my time as being a revenue cycle leader, was around how do you get other areas within your organization to engage more effectively with revenue cycle? Because I need IT, I need clinical operations, I need the C-suite to know who I am, what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, because I need investment, I need funding to be able to do the things that we need to do. And so often revenue cycle was deduced to, oh, that's just billing. That's administrative overhead and billing. Heck, no, it's not. And I think that starts with us as revenue cycle leaders being able to speak to and educate other parts of our organization, right? They need to know who we are, how comprehensive we are, what we're trying to do, how we're performing. They need to have faith and trust in us as a unit. And I think, again, that starts with the people-friendly approach. They have to like us and believe that that we're doing the right thing and that we're exploring the right opportunities. And so I think it ties in nicely to what Brett was describing about really just taking that human people-centric approach to problem solving and to really operating as a more cohesive revenue cycle unit being part of the health system overall plan.
Perfect. I do. It could just be bias and hearing echoes in the circles that I'm in, which is, revenue cycle people. I do think we're getting more and more of a platform. I do think you're seeing CFOs now with revenue cycle backgrounds much more frequently than what used to just be more of a stewardship role of finances. And there's a million things that they do that are outside of CFO, and those are growing in importance too. Alternative revenue streams, I think, are growing in importance. But I do think the importance of a successful revenue cycle shop at a hospital, health system, or even, physician group and beyond, I think people are getting it. So we're here to help them through that all in our own ways. But yeah, let's circle back to be kind. I love that. So thanks again, guys. I hope you had a good time. I feel good about us educating our listeners through this episode. And until next time.
Thanks again for having us, Ryan.
That's a wrap on yet another episode of Vendor Voices. Huge thanks to our guests for their insights and to you for listening. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with your team. If you'd like to suggest a specific topic or guest, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or at rdowns@realpartnersconsulting.com. Please rate and review, and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode. I'm Ryan Downs. Thanks for tuning in.